Hi everyone and happy holidays. Today we're going to be talking about the differences in solution-focused brief therapy and narrative therapy. So first, how the theories are similar and how they're different. Narrative therapy is strengths-based. It emphasizes collaboration between the client and therapist and tries to help clients view themselves as empowered and able to live the way that they want. Narrative therapy therapists are collaborative and they try to listen respectfully to clients' stories. The general goal of narrative therapy is to invite people to describe their experience in new and fresh language. So the therapist acts as a facilitator to listen to what the client is saying. Similarly to solution-focused therapy, which we will talk about in just a second, the narrative therapist assumes that the client's the expert when it comes to what they want and need in life. So solution-focused brief therapy, SFBT, is future-focused and goal-oriented, and it emphasizes, like narrative therapy, the strength and resilience of people. It's optimistic, anti-deterministic, it's future-oriented, and it's based on the assumption that clients have the ability to change quickly. So the solution-focused philosophy rests on the assumption that people can get into these unresolved past conflicts when they focus on them. So it focuses entirely on the future. And unlike narrative therapy, it doesn't really care about people's past and their stories, but only wants to know how the client can achieve their goal. One emphasis of this therapy is to focus on what is already working in the client's lives, and this is distinctly different from narrative therapy, which kind of tends to be problem-focused. So solution therapy wants to know what's already working and how we can implement that, and narrative therapy says, what's the problem and how can we fix it? So the strengths of these therapies, they're both postmodern approaches. So one of the strengths is that these postmodern approaches, they fit in with diverse worldviews, because especially with narrative therapy, therapists believe that problems have to be identified within social, cultural, political contexts, and instead of just the individual. So they take all these things into consideration, gender, ethnicity, race, to figure out these therapeutic issues. So it's able to be applied across the board to all kinds of populations. A shortcoming of these postmodern approaches, like solution-based therapy and narrative therapy, is that the therapist is supposed to not know, not be the expert. So the therapist views the client as the only person who actually knows what they need, and that can be a drawback because in a lot of cultures, the client is coming to the therapist because they have a problem and they think that the therapist should have the ability to fix it. So some integration of Christian concepts. In the Tan textbook, the writer puts both of these therapies under the umbrella of marriage and family therapies, but they have a lot of the same conflicts as some of the other ones we've studied so far. So overemphasis of self, neglecting treatment, about caring for others, etc. I think one of the ways that solution-focused brief therapy agrees with Christian principles is that it generally assumes that people are healthy and able to change if they want to. It's very positive and optimistic in this way. But, one of its basic tenets is that people can be trusted to solve their own problems. When the Bible tells us that the heart is deceitful and our flesh can lead us to desire things that contradict biblical principles. So I don't think that people can always be trusted to solve their own problems. Narrative therapy has a similar problem, which is that, the therapist sees clients as having the ability to interpret their unique realities in numerous ways, depending on the client. And, the Bible tells us that there aren't numerous ways necessarily. there can be like various perspectives, but there's still an overarching theme and a unifying goal that Christians should strive towards. As far as measurable outcomes, it has similar limitations to the other therapies that we have studied so far, which is that there's not a lot of empirical research, and the empirical research that there is, they don't have like controlled outcome studies. So additionally, they're varied in their goal setting, so defining measurable outcomes is very difficult in these kinds of situations. But thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to watching you guys' videos.